So Jeff, I just want to say again, thank you for taking the time. I know you have a very busy schedule. Really appreciate you showing me your beautiful, property in Lancaster, taking a look at my new listing here on South Coolidge, and obviously, sitting down and talking about, your industry. You're a very well-known builder in the area, so I figured it'd be a great opportunity for you to sit here on our Boom Room Unfiltered. This is the 7th episode. So again, tell me, I guess in a minute or two, just your thoughts about this house, and then we can kind of get into your claim to fame.
I think it's special.
Okay.
I think it's unique.
Okay.
Just the openness of the foyer, which leads to the family room and the bar, and most importantly back here.
Yeah.
This is what's going to sell this house quickly. It's just a great space, a lot of bedrooms. You can have all the kids and grandkids. And this is all you need.
Yeah.
And you're walkable to everything.
Yeah. I like the South Coolidge location, and I like the fact it's so close to the beach and all the restaurants. So, hopefully we have a couple of the showings that came through last week are going to make a move. So we'll keep you posted, and we'll see what happens there.
Yeah,
but enough about the house. On to, so Jeff Kaliner, right?
That's correct.
Correct. So you started Oasis, you told me, about 11 years ago?
Sounds about right.
So tell me, how'd you get into the business? How'd you get into the industry?
While everybody thinks it might be related, I was in the home improvement business for the better part of my life, for 21 years. A company called Power Home Remodeling Group, out of Chester, Pennsylvania today. And a good story there. Just started with my cousin in an apartment in Wilmington, Delaware, and grew a successful business, but on the replacement side. Replacement windows, vinyl siding, roofing, things like that.
So you were basically supplying materials to developers and builders?
No, homeowners.
Oh, to homeowners. Direct.
Direct marketing to homeowners and installation services as well.
Okay.
And then 11-ish years ago or so, sold my interest. Still my cousin is the founding partner, and there's 2 co-CEOs that run it today, and they're probably the biggest, they are the biggest in the country at what they do.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Yeah. So that, was it related to this? I've had a home here in Margate myself for about 12, 13 years. And while I was still at my former company, developed and built one home on Mansfield, which didn't go well for me. But at that time, the realtor I was working with introduced me to a builder and said, next time you do this, you'll learn from your mistakes and give this guy a call. And I did. And so I worked with another GC for a good number of years, maybe 7 of those years. And then we parted ways, and then Oasis became a builder on its own.
Beautiful, amazing. So 11 years you've been doing this, and I mean, obviously you're a people person. We just spent the afternoon together. You have a lot of knowledge in the building industry, and I think having that knowledge is obviously what's propelled you to your levels today. So tell me this: what was your sweet spot when you first got into the industry? What was the kind of were they like the twins, the townhouses, the singles?
So at the time, 11 years ago was more spec homes. The market was different than it was today, and I think it was just a matter of getting to know people, and getting to know, in particular, realtors, and let them know right out of the gate that I might be the new guy in town, but I'm going to honor the relationship I have with you, and if you could find something that I would want to tear down, then you get the listing on the outset when the home's complete.
So you basically said to all the agents out here, listen, here's what I'm looking for, here's the areas I'm looking for, and make sure the lots are, obviously amenable to building the type of house that I'm looking to build. Yeah. And that's how that kind of all began. Yeah, and
I wasn't their first choice, and maybe they went to some other builders. I'll never know.
Right.
But there were some that made sense, and one that really put us on the map, so to speak, was a triple subdivision not far from here, actually, in Longport on 35th. And that became a triple subdivision, and we did 3, obviously, homes at the same time. So that was a big jump start.
Okay. So you're obviously, this is your full-time gig now.
Yeah.
So, and you're building down here all year round.
Yes.
Okay. So, but the majority is what? Longport, Margate. You were saying Ocean City as well. So
Ocean City's been good to us. A couple in Ventnor.
Okay.
More, the ones we've done in Ventnor have been custom homes.
Okay.
And it's the business has morphed over the years, where the past few since COVID have been mostly custom homes.
Okay.
So whether the land was ours or theirs or the buyers, that's how that went. And now we're starting to see a little bit of a shift, a little bit. So we have the one you mentioned, 115 North Lancaster,
Right.
that is on the market and finished.
Okay. What's that when listed at?
2.65.
2.65. Okay. And that's what, 3,200 square feet.
3,200 square feet,
Five bedroom,
4.5 bath, pool out back,
Beautiful pool,
elevator.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous house, and I love that street. So, beautiful quality type of home. I mean, you're really doing a beautiful job. Tell me this. So, most of the time, there are people coming to you and saying, Jeff, I want to build this and this house. I'm looking for this type of lot. Or they're coming to you when you already own the lot, already started construction. I guess, which happens more often?
Well, first of all, as the old saying goes, location, location, location.
Right.
It's even more down here.
Right.
Meaning, if you want to live, let's say, on the main line at home, you might look in Villanova or Gladwin or Rosemont or whatever. And down here, people come and they say, I'm looking for Margate, I'm looking for the South Side,
right.
And then the ABC streets. And you say, whoa,
yeah.
I'll look for you, but I can't make any promises. So that's unique about this market. And there's just not a lot of land available. Well, there's really no land, but how many teardowns are there left where people can be this close to the Atlantic Ocean?
Yeah, a property like this, for example, is hard to come by. The size, the lot, the location. And I feel like I'm always curious to know. Obviously somebody might call you and say, listen, I saw that you're buying properties, you're building properties, I'm looking to sell, come out there, assess our property value, that's it. But sometimes you probably have to get on the phone and start cold calling, no? Like I cold call sometimes. I'm sure that's coming across. Listen, if you need there's only so many houses on these ABC streets. So how do you come across those properties?
So with us, every once in a while we'll send a postcard out letting people know that we're here.
Right.
Not only are we available as a custom builder, but we'll also buy your property. So we do that from time to time, but for the most part, I leave that prospecting up to the agents.
Right.
And I don't want to step on their toes. Even though we have Oasis Realty, I explained to you earlier, that's really to list homes that come to us, or if it's a family or friend. But by and large, we've always stayed true to the idea that if someone brought us a house to tear down, that agent would get the outsale.
Right. Okay. And in regards to the types of homes, like we were mentioning before, like the custom house is what you're kind of sticking to, first and foremost. But you're not building condos down here. You're not building multifamilies down here. Your claim to fame is the single house market.
Yeah, and there's been a couple one-offs. One was a 5-unit complex, and another 4. But by and large, yes, single-family homes, which is kind of our sweet spot. We find that the point between where it makes sense, and I'm pointing this way because the beach is that way,
right.
But where it makes sense financially and doesn't make sense, that line is moving down. So if it was a 200 or 300 block home, back in the day, it was difficult to make it work, because even as a new home, even as recently as 2 years ago, people weren't going to pay 1.2, 1.3 million for those, and it couldn't work.
Yeah, when I started renting here, maybe 8, 9 years ago on South Adams, and I remember they couldn't give these houses away. The house it was like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It was like a little Cape Cod looking house, and the seller was begging me, just buy it. I was paying him not a lot of money compared to what the numbers are today.
Yeah.
And I remember he's like, Joe, buy my place. I'm like, I don't want your place. But now that I think back, it was a fucking steal, because I should have bought that property. I could have torn it down. I could have built something. I could have built onto it. A lot of things I could have done to it.
We all had a crystal ball.
Yeah, but back then, I was looking at the property, and I'm like, who would want this? And it's supply and demand and location. People want that location now, and can't get that location now.
And of course, when COVID hit,
oh my God, yeah, and that's what I was going to get to next.
People want to spend time down here.
Yeah,
and people work remote.
Yeah. So that was like a game changer, right? You were telling me earlier you let me tell you go into those details that COVID hit, and you were sitting on a lot of real estate.
Yeah, I was sitting on quite a few. I'm going to estimate maybe 15 parcels, and I thought, oh shit, this is
the end.
I got a problem. This is the end. Why did I do this? What am I thinking?
Listen, but then all of a sudden,
all of a sudden everybody said, "Oh, you were a genius." I said, "No. Got a little lucky,
right?
But not as lucky as one might think,
right?
Because all those homes, or a handful of those homes that were sold in 2020 and 21, cost more than the contract said. So that was a tough time.
So COVID hit, so I'm sure, and I'm sure for everybody here, I'm sure the real estate agents loved it, but you guys couldn't build the product fast enough, and I'm sure. How many crews do you have?
And you couldn't get them here. Well, most everything is subcontracted out, with us and with most of the builders down here. All the mechanicals, framing work, things like that, masonry. We do though have. I have a few carpenters on staff. I have some laborers on staff. Other bookkeeper, admin, project manager, supervisor. So. We have a pretty deep bench in that regard, but by and large, the most of the trades are subcontracted.
Understood. So COVID hit, this shit was getting a little crazy, and then things started selling, and you couldn't keep up. I'm sure you're just kind of like turn around.
Well, it is, and at the same time, we're able to. We do our best to rotate them in and create some separation. It's never that easy because it depends on the clients and when they make their selections and whether or not that's timely. And then everybody wants to be, there's something magical about Memorial Day, and I've got to be in. Some people will pass up on homes if the builder says they can't be in for Memorial Day.
Which listen, I guess if you're spending that kind of money, you know what you want. But the same token, you want to use it for that brief 3-month time span. So if you can't get in, I'll find something else. But so it's a kind of 2-part question. 2-3 years ago when it was, COVID was ending, so to speak, and then things started kind of going nuts. What your prognosis back then was, oh shit, and then it turned into, oh shit, right? So what's your prognosis with the market now? Because the last, 18 months have been probably on the uptick. What have you seen since then?
It's still pricing is holding.
Okay.
And it's holding because inventory remains low.
Okay.
But yet people are treading lightly.
Okay.
We're not seeing them so quick to pay asking or above. People are feeling out the market, saying, let me see what the stock market's going to do. Let me see what the election's going to do. But, the reality is very few people are mortgage buyers here.
Right.
So they're cash, but is it a better opportunity to park their cash than in the market? Those are the kind of things.
Well, nobody's being as impulsive, which I'm one of those guys. I was not planning, and I've done my research, and I'm going to do my research, and then when you finally buy, you want to make a conscious decision. Can you afford it? What's going to be up with the market? And that was my concern. So where do you see the market going between now and next spring 25?
And it's all relative, right? Like in terms of being cautious, I feel that I am as well. And yet when you see that deal and you just, for me, sometimes it's, I don't want my competitor to buy it. Right. Even though it doesn't quite pencil. Right. Is the market, to your point, going to continue to go up? Because if it does, then it's going to be fine. And there's an element to the pro forma today that for the first 10 years, out of 11, I didn't have to think about, which is the cost of carrying it, finance fee. And, it really is significant. So if I'd be willing to overpay for a lot if I knew that I had a buyer for the finished home. Right. Because that buyer could come in and offset the cost of the cost as we go. Right. But if you don't know that, then that number on $1 million for the land, $1 million to build, and overhead and profit and carry and all that. So if it's a $2.5 million nut at a 6%, what is that? You do the math. Listen, it's a lot of money.
Yeah. I mean, you're looking at
18 months,
100%, and you have to hold it for those months as well. Yeah. So that's it starts infringing on your profit. It doesn't make sense or not. So I guess the question is, do you see, with the election around the corner and hopefully the rates? Like I talk to 5 different people and I get 5 different answers. My lender thinks, Joe, don't worry. Rates are going to come down. Fed's meeting, rates are going to come down. 50 basis points, 70. But nobody knows. Yeah. How do you know? Nobody can know.
And you definitely don't, because had you asked me 2 years ago, I would have said I'm treading cautiously. Right. And others who weren't good for them.
Right.
To take a chance. So I don't know. I don't know that the election really affects it. That's my opinion. Because if it does, it would be a blip.
Right.
And it would just continue to move. And if you look at forever and a day back in time, it's always going to look like this.
Right.
The longer duration you look. So is there going to be a little bit of a setback? Perhaps. But I don't think it's going to be a major.
I mean, listen, they're saying recession, they're saying rates. And again, it's been, 2-3 years since the end of, again, I'm bringing COVID up, or maybe 4 years now, and they were predicting a collapse and everything. It was a grim future. And, obviously what's going on around the world right now, it's not the best, but things are still kind of pushing through, and people are still buying, and people are still selling, and, people are living with their lives. And I feel if somebody, life's short, right? If
just going to say,
if you're, in the position to buy a property, or buy a property down the shore, and you could have that luxury, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it's a safe bet to invest your money in the shore market, especially with your family, especially with appreciation. There's only so much waterfront or waterside property out there, so it wouldn't be a bad decision. And everything that I've seen since I started renting back in, I guess, 15, 14, I'm a fool not to have picked anything up. And I'm sure you see by yourself, you probably sold properties 4 or 5 years ago for one price point. If you had held it, you probably sell it for a different price point.
The ones that there have been a handful of ours that have already retraded.
I'm sure.
And I can't believe.
And it's mind-blowing.
The numbers.
Yeah. And listen, again, I feel like your industry, if I could have done something else, and I still kind of dabble in flips here and there, but building from the ground up, I like this whole process. And it's not for everybody, because there's a lot of, a lot of responsibilities, a lot of attitudes, a lot of people's opinions I'm sure you're dealing with.
You're being so nice.
Yeah, well, we have to be politically
correct. Clients with high expectations.
Yes,
But you mentioned earlier, but they've earned it and they deserve it.
Yeah. And they have, like you said, expectations, especially with the clientele in Margate and Longport, they expect the best. And I'm sure since you've been doing this for 11 plus years, you're up there as the best. So I give you credit, and I really value your opinion, and I'm really appreciative that you reached out to me, and hopefully we can do some business together.
Yeah, I mean, I that's when I called you, right? I said, who is this guy? The buzz was around, who is this guy? You brought a buyer to one of our properties, and I said, well, I'm going to give him a call directly, because there's something entrepreneurial about your spirit, and it can only be positive. Yeah, it can only work.
Well, I'm trying to obviously venture out into the not just the Jersey market, but the shore market. I feel like the shore market's a very difficult market to get into, especially with a lot of the agents that have been here for many, many years that are established, and they have their clientele. And when they see somebody like me, this guy from Bucks County or Philadelphia coming in and trying to
You're a shooby.
Like who is this guy? Why is he, they feel threatened. I'm not trying to make any enemies here. I'm just trying to serve a cause, serve a purpose. So if I can collaborate with any of these agents, I'm willing to do it. Collaborate with you and other builders, I'm willing to do so. At the end of the day, we have a purpose to sell some real estate and make some money.
And our buyers are the same people.
100%. So if I can collaborate with one of your agents that are helping you sell Lancaster, for example, and I can bring a buyer, she makes out, you make out, and I make out. So I'm all about it. And the same thing goes for me. If I have a client or an agent that reaches out and says, Joe, I want to come to your listing on South Coolidge, I want to do a promotionary video with you, or collaborate, or co-list it, I'm all for it. Why wouldn't I be?
Right. And here I am in this home. I didn't build this home.
No,
I said to you before, in a sense, it's a competitor, but it's it's not brand new, but it appears pretty darn close.
And that speaks volumes that you take the time to meet with me here, take a look at it, give me your 2 cents, what I need to do to sell it, if it's on the mark price-wise, and I think especially with this whole NAR settlement, which I'll get to last before we complete this discussion, I feel like realtors need to work together. I feel like with the market being the way it is now and this thing taking effect on the 17th, more realtors, especially in this day and age, are going to have to work together, because with what's going to happen, it's going to weed out a lot of the newbies and a lot of the buyer agents that are going to have a hard time staying afloat. And I think it's going to be a very interesting outcome after the 17th, which hits in a couple days.
Coming up.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah. So since the realty side of my business, our business is small piece. So it's not like we are representing buyers typically, but but my opinion is, I guess it makes sense in certain ways for protection of the consumers.
Right.
And I guess if you think about it, does it really make sense that I'm a buyer, I'm gonna hire an agent and expect someone else to pay them? So
right.
just on its surface, that doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Right.
But in the end, there's going to be some figuring out and maybe even some gamesmanship, because now I'm going to say, well, I want you to represent me, but wait a minute, the seller isn't going to pay you, my agent, but then I'm not going to show you their house, so okay, they're going to pay you.
Of course.
It's all going to be figured out, I think, in the end.
I think it's going to be a blip, and I think it's going to get some getting used to, like the MLS was getting used to when it went from Trend or whatever MLS to Bright, and when it was the book, the real estate book, to the internet. But ultimately, I feel if I'm more listing heavy, and if I'm representing you, and you say, Joe, why do I have to pay you 5% when there's no other broker going to be involved? Well, ultimately, if you want me to collaborate and bring a potential buyer through, I might have a buyer pool that's this big, but if I open it up to the MLS, that another buyer from, say, for example, another RE/MAX office can come through, I won't be able to get to that buyer without putting it on MLS. So that buyer has to that agent has to get compensated for bringing that buyer through. Now, if the agent calls me and says, Joe, are you cooperating? I'm going to say, hell yeah, because ultimately I'd rather, sell the property and make a little bit less and make you the sale, make me the sale, make him the sale, and get it sold than holding on to it, because without that collaboration, that buyer might not get this property.
Yeah, can you imagine anyone that wouldn't cooperate?
The only thing that you're concerned with now is that some agents, I feel, are going to be acting this way, and I've just seen it just in calls that I've spoken to other realtors, because they might be taking discounted commissions because they don't know how to show their value to their seller, and if they do so, if they're working for a discounted commission, they can't afford to pay the buyer broker and make a living as well. Mm-hmm. So I feel when agents start acting that way, that buyer is going to say, the hell with you, I'm calling Joe. Because if you're not going to show it to me, I want to see this property.
Right.
And I think that's what's going to happen. And I hope that's not what happened. But what I think is going to then occur is that agents that have a rapport with other agents, like if I would call, say, Linda, and say, Linda, I have a buyer for your listing. Let's work something out. I would imagine she'd say, absolutely, let's work together. We should work together because I don't have a buyer for the property. Let's make it happen. But if an agent has a buyer standing by and they don't need me, that's where I think things are going to get a little bit sketchy. Yeah. So that's my only concern, but I think it definitely will bring agents to work closer together. I plan on doing an event in our area in Bucks County, and maybe I'll do some down here to bring all the agents together, whoever wants to, and say, listen, guys, we're here to work together.
Okay, right.
We need to help each other out. We need to you need to establish some sort of camaraderie, not work against each other, but work with each other. And I'm hoping that's going to bring.
Do you think the industry itself is going to shed a lot of agents?
I think it's already shedding agents. I think the new agents are going to have a really hard time. This industry already is cutthroat, but to bring this kind of like like you said, this blip into it, it's going to be a game changer. How do we stay afloat? How do we market ourselves? Buyers, unfortunately, are not loyal sometimes, and you have to really be leery. They may be working with 3-4 different agents at one time. Now you're going to they have to sign a buyer agency contract, which is going to show they're exclusive to you.
Yeah, and that's going to be a challenge for people because the buyers aren't aware of this big change.
100%.
And they're going to wonder, wait a minute, I've never had to sign anything in my life. This is the 7th house I've bought in my life. Well, Well, look, there's a listing contract for you to list with me. There'll be a listing contract for a buyer to work with the buyer. Yep. And I think this is healthy. I think there'll be some tweaking and there's be some rough roads ahead. But I think once we get those blips out of the picture, things will come together. So that's what I'm hoping for. I really appreciate you spending some time with me. I know you have a time crunch, and I know you spent the day with me today, so I really appreciate that. But it meant a lot meeting you, seeing a product that you're owning, that you're building, and taking the time and giving me your 2 cents on this property. I hope that we can do business in the future. Yeah. And I think we definitely will do business in the future. 100%. I think if we can talk about that whole cross-marketing business, because I mentioned it already, but the buyers up in the suburbs of Pennsylvania and New Jersey, and now even trickling up more north and more south, they're all the same people.
100%.
And so it just makes sense.
Well, again, I appreciate it, and I look forward to working again with you in the future.
Right on.
All right, sir. Thanks. You. All right. Thank you, guys. Thanks for joining the Boom Room Unfiltered. This is episode number 7, and stay tuned for the next one. Boom.